Hello and welcome to Indie Incursion, an indie games podcast. Your weekly, I'm pretty sure I just fucked that up. I just said some weird ass shit. Your weekly source for all the indie games you need to know. This week we're bringing you 4 awesome indie games news stories. But before that, I'd like to introduce myself, Vaughn Hyde, the just biggest mush mouth on earth, alongside my illustrious co-host, the biggest of average Josh boys. How you doing, big Josh boy?
Pretty good. I haven't fucked up yet, so I'm doing great.
I feel like you normally always are like spot on the podcast, and then it's me just like.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but I'd say that it's. Well, I mean, you're talking a lot more than I am, so there's definitely more room for error with you.
That's fair. I guess that's fair, and I don't know how to read, so even my own writing.
For a show where we just read things, you'd think you'd be getting better by now.
Yeah, no, that's not really how my life goes. It's just kind of like making the same mistakes over and over again. Like, I'm absolutely insane for that exact reason. I think Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing twice and expecting a different result. Yeah, basically just every time. I'm assuming eventually I'll get better at reading, but it's just not going to happen. I've given up on it. I am a 24-year-old dreamer who can't do anything. That's about it.
You know what? That's the end of the podcast. Well, let's end on a bad note.
That's why I'm trying to get that's why I truly dream of getting Isekai so I can get sent to another world and just fuck up there too. Just really, not do well at all. Probably get eaten by a dragon or something if it's a fantasy one, because that's just what I do,
Would you rather be in what? You know what? I thought of a good question. All right, we'll save that for later, but never mind. We'll transition to something different instead. You'd probably get fucked up by a dragon, though. You're definitely right.
Speaking of getting fucked up by a dragon, what I've been playing this week is some good old WoW Classic alongside some other games. WoW Classic, super fun. Really? At the end of last week's recording, I said I was going to play a little bit, and I did. I played a lot more than I probably should have, considering I had stuff to do over the weekend. Yeah.
This motherfucking procrastinator.
Exactly. That's the definition of who I am. So I played a bunch of WoW Classic. I've tried out a bunch of different classes, and I love it. It's all about the little things for me. The fact that hunters actually have to have ammo to shoot bows, guns, anything like that. I actually have to have a pouch to hold my ammunition. When I pull out my bow, I actually have a quiver. That is by far the coolest thing ever. See, it's all about the little things for me, like stupid ass animations. The fact that those suck would ruin a game for me. The small things that are included make a game so much better for me. Honestly, WoW Classic is the biggest slog ever. Wow. Current WoW, I can get to level 15 in probably 2 hours. And it took me probably a solid 8 hours to get to level 10.
Oh, that's nuts.
Yeah,
that is not appealing to me at all.
I mean, I feel like 8 hours is definitely exaggerating, but it has taken me a while. And it's pretty crazy, but it's a lot of fun. It honestly, I've been thinking about writing a piece on this between whether classic games coming back is more based on nostalgia or whether it is the return of harder games, and these harder games are then making it feel like you actually accomplished something. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm actually going to write that, but that's kind of how I feel, is that this game is so much harder, but it feels so much more rewarding. Every time I kill an enemy, I feel like there was actually a possibility that I might die, versus current WoW, I pop in and I'm just like, dude, I'm just slaughtering people left and right. These things don't even matter to me. I don't care about you, your babies, your uncle, nothing.
Wow.
That's
weird things to go for with babies and uncles. I mean, most people don't like those two together.
Yeah, typically they wouldn't. Alongside other games I've been playing, so I played the WoW Classic. I main Hunter, by the way, just in case anybody wants to know.
I forget, and we probably talked about this before. Did you play WoW originally? Like the original? Not actual Classic, but back way long ago?
Considering I was 8, Yeah, I was 9. No,
You
I
were
did not.
9? Jesus.
Yeah, it came out in 2004, I believe. 2003, 2004 was in the
man.
original WoW came out, I think. So I'm not throwing out some baseless accusations.
Calm down with these fucking false facts.
World of Warcraft original release date. Let's pop on that guy. I'm pretty sure it's 2004. Okay, you're not helping me with telling me when Classic WoW fucking released, you assholes.
I mean, that's the new big thing. Who's searching for when WoW actually came out, other than us, apparently?
I was right. It came out in 2004. So yeah, I was 9 at the time. So no, I did not play it then.
Okay.
I didn't actually play it until, I believe, when Wrath of the Lich King came out. Maybe a little bit of I think it's the Burning Crusades expansion.
Right.
It's the Burning Crusades because the Burning Legion is the
But you
antagonist,
did
so.
play originally, like before this. Is kind of what I was getting to.
Oh yeah. I've played off and on for, I don't know. I'm 24 now, so I've probably played off and on for a solid like 8 years. I would say. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
about 8 years since I was about 16 when I got a decent enough PC to actually be able to play it. So I've hopped on, played a bunch, got a character to like level 60, and then just abandoned it to make a new one, and then I just hated it and I would delete my subscription. So yeah, that's kind of how I play MMOs. It's super fun.
Sounds about right. So you think that's what you're gonna do with this one?
I honestly, 60 is the level cap, so more than likely, but I'm actually planning on devoting a decent amount of time to WoW Classic because I want to hop into raiding, but I've never done it before. I've gotten to the level, like, I have characters that are at the level required to raid, but I've never actually done any raids. I generally just play dungeons, so I think I'm gonna try to do some raiding in WoW Classic. I'm really excited about it. But other games I've been playing, I bought, because of people in a way insulting the game, I ended up buying Greedfall. I was kind of like, I wasn't necessarily on the fence. I was going to buy Greedfall anyway, but I just wasn't sure if I was going to wait a little while for it, wait for a sale or something like that. Turns out it's $50 instead of $60, so that was kind of a nice selling point there. And at Walmart, I got it for $41 because apparently Walmart has excessively low prices on everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of Walmart. My family actually boycotts Walmart in a weird way, but yeah, my mom and dad have boycotted Walmart for, like, I would say probably like 10, 12 years. It's pretty crazy.
Wow.
I actually once asked my dad if I got a job at Walmart, if he would care, and he said he'd disown me. So.
I was just about to ask, how does it feel to go behind your parents' back?
Oh, they know. They constantly heckle me about it. They're just like, oh, yeah, you guys love Walmart. You're always shopping there. I'm like, no, I mean, I go to Walmart like maybe once every 2 weeks.
It's also a really strange thing to try and like egg someone on about.
Yeah, coming at me for shopping at Walmart every now and then. But yeah, I ended up buying Greedfall because somebody said it's like an early 2000s BioWare game, and I was like, that sounds fantastic. They did not mean it in a good way, but it sounded fantastic to me. So I was like, you know what? I actually will go buy that. I had to drive like 15 miles away from my apartment because none of the stores around me had it to buy it. And I'm actually really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of like the perfect sweet spot for where I want this kind of an RPG to be, because I'm a big fan of like the Dragon Age series. And it's obviously like Dragon Age is strictly fantasy, and Greedfall mixes fantasy with like the turning of the tides, like the revolution, to where you've got like flintlock pistols and stuff like that. And so it's like similar to the time that I would say Fable 2 takes place in, that it's about then. And I honestly just love that aesthetic, the like tricorn hats, the highwaymen, the flintlock pistols, the cutlasses, basically just pirates, I should say. I've got a hard on for pirates. So
All right.
yeah, other than that, only indie game I have played this week is actually Don't Give Up, A Cynical Tale. And It's fantastic.
What is it?
I honestly don't give up a cynical tale. It's a I've talked about it. I believe we've talked about it on the podcast before because it was on Kickstarter for quite a while.
My memory is terrible.
Yes, off the podcast we've spoken.
Oh, okay, it's off the podcast. All right, and then it's.
Oh no, I'm saying off the podcast we spoke about how shitty your memory is.
Oh,
we spoke on the
right.
podcast about this video game.
Apparently, I'm bad at paying attention too.
And it was also included in an article I wrote for Handsome Phantom when I first was just pitching articles to them about like some cool indie games on Kickstarter. And it happened to be one of them. I had followed it since. It's got just fantastic music, a really interesting story that I haven't played too much, probably only a couple hours.
Yeah, I have played this. You're right. I've played the demo.
It's a little weird. I love the it's probably the only time I've actually played a game where I liked to read the dialogue, and I liked the fact that you know how in like kind of visual novels or like in Persona when people talk, it'll like in a way kind of fade away from the actual, like it'll basically put the foreground in the background and then pull them forward and has more of like an artistic rendition of them talking. It's that's a weird way to explain it, but it does a similar thing in Don't Give Up, and I really like it. It goes from a pixel art aesthetic to a hand-drawn one when people are talking. It's honestly like some of the funniest and weirdest dialogue I've read in a game. I would recommend it to everybody. I have only played about, I would say like 3 to 4 hours maybe, but it's really fun. The story's starting to turn to like kind of a weird like mystery, like mysterious place. So I'm actually really excited to play more of it. And it's only $10. It's actually like $8.99 right now until September 26th. So I'd recommend everybody go check it out. It's a lot of fun, and the music is just spot on. It's fantastic. And that's coming from somebody who does not give a shit about music. So
What a thing to say.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, though. Yeah, maybe I'll go check that out, because I did enjoy the demo when I played it back when they first, because they tried to get backs on Kickstarter originally, and then they did a re-up of it or something. Like I think they might have been just asking for more money. I really don't remember the details behind it.
From what I understand, I think their initial Kickstarter did hit its goal, and then they needed more funding to just finish off its development.
Yeah.
So they did an additional Kickstarter.
Which seems weird, doesn't it? Doesn't that seem like kind of odd?
It's a little odd, but I don't really know. It was kind of weird. So the Kickstarter was like almost, I think, I don't know why me saying just came out so weird. It was like it really threw me off from what I was going to say. It was kind of like a year between when that second Kickstarter ended and when the game actually came out.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It was just to finish things off. I don't think it's sketchy in any way, I guess. I mean, Kickstarter in essence is kind of sketchy, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of foreshadowing there.
That's true.
Yeah. No, I'll have to check it out, though. It was pretty fun. I remember when I first tried it back in the day, so I'm interested to see what has changed so far.
I will warn you, the smack talk system that adds buffs and debuffs is really, really funny and great. The actual combat eats just a bag of dicks. It's real bad. I'm not a fan. It's basically like you have 4 tiles and enemies will attack certain tiles, and you have to dodge it while also hitting them with ranged attacks. And then when you break their guard, you just wail on them with your sword that kind of looks like Legos. And then... yeah, you just do that over and over again until you beat them.
Yeah, I remember, well, I mean, I guess because it was a demo, I remember being interested in that playstyle because I was like, oh, this is unique. It's kind of fun. But I guess over time that probably would get old. So,
yeah, I've done 4 or 5 battles now, and it was fun initially, and it ramps up and goes a lot faster when enemies get like kind of enraged, so it gives it a little bit of like added weight. But in the end, it just kind of feels like I don't know, just really, really repetitive, versus Smack Talk is just hilarious. You basically just dunking on dudes left and right, telling them, like, the first time I popped into Smack Talk, it's like, how does it feel to have, like, a father cousin or some shit like that, like a father brother? And he's like, hey, don't you be talking about my family? Love knows no bounds. And it's like, that guy's fucking inbred. Ugh. That was uncomfortable.
Damn.
Yeah, you're just like dunking on people. That's really fun. But the combat just, it just gets stale. It gets really old. But everything else in the game, between the characters, kind of the world, the music, the story, all of it is pretty fantastic at this point.
All right. Well, very cool.
But that is coming from somebody who's only played like 3 or 4 hours. And I don't know how long the game is, so take it with a grain of salt. Maybe it sucks ass at the end. Hopefully it doesn't.
Well, we can only hope. Anyway, I'll go. I only have one thing I want to talk about today. And it's actually kind of funny because I think it was last week or maybe the week before. You were like, I'll never play that game because of the twisting and turning makes you sick. But I picked up Fez. Because
really,
yeah, I picked up Fez, which is a really old game, but recently, like I think 2 weeks ago, Epic Game Store was giving it away for free. So that's pretty much what I talk about all the time now. I'm on that free streak. And
you're such a turd, dude.
Yeah, I don't want to give them money, but I'll keep playing on their system. I legit want to play The Outer Worlds so bad, and I want to play it on PC, and I was like, I don't want to buy this. So I'm trying to like ask their press team to be like, hey, can I have a review copy, just because I don't want to pay for the PC version.
It would be something that I find really cool about the Epic Game Store, and I know that they do it for other like merchandisers. They do it as well, or other platforms like PlayStation Store and stuff. But Epic Game Store actually will give you like media passes to where you just get any game you want for free. You just basically like, I don't think you're obligated to cover them, but the idea behind it is that you will cover them.
Right. I don't think I mean I don't hold any stature big enough to justify them granting me that though, so I'm
never know, dude. Maybe they're obviously big fans of indie games, and I don't know any other indie game podcasts, so
yeah, that's
hit them up,
true,
be
man.
like, hey, we're like an endangered species.
I mean, Raw Fury, they just retweeted the article I wrote and quoted out one of the things about Atomicrops that I said. So, moving up on the world.
Yeah, congratulations about that. That's pretty exciting.
But anyway, so about Fez, I'm actually really digging it. I was a little against it at first because I feel like, especially if you're going to play this game, don't play it on keyboard. It feels so much more comfortable with a controller. So I had first originally played it on keyboard controls, and I was like, this is kind of janky. But when I plugged in my controller, started playing it, it feels so nice. I don't know, everything just clicked much better. And it's really good. Like, I really enjoy the world because, for those who don't know, and I'm sure a lot of people do because Fez is a pretty old game, it's essentially you're this character who's in this world where it's very flat. It's a 2D world, and then all of a sudden this mysterious being.
A Fez cap.
Well, yeah, but this mysterious, like, floating kind of source of light comes to you and starts talking to you and basically says that you have to help, essentially, the world because something's happening and there's doom impending. And so, yeah, you basically have this Fez cap that falls on your head, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can see the world in 3D perspective now, which is, granted, a pretty dumb, like, way to go about things, but for some reason that's how it works, and now you're able to look at the world in every single angle, meaning from left, right, all the way around in basically fours, so it's like a cube. You can't top or down change the angle, but you rotate based on is it the x-axis or the y-axis? I always get them confused. Anyway,
I think it's the x-axis.
You can only rotate on one axis, so you go around in 4 different panes for the different views that you can have. But it's really clever the way they did it. I love it. It's one of the first puzzle games that I've played, and kept going through with it. Like a lot of times puzzle games, I enjoy them, but I'll play them for like an hour or so and then I'll be like, I'm done. And that's just like, I always just end up going with that. With Fez, I've actually gone through and I've almost completed the entire thing just in like 1 or 2 sittings because I was just like, wow, this is really fun. The puzzles to it aren't like crazy hard until you get to more of the what's called anti-cubes, which are challenges, but for the most part, I just think it's really clever the way they did perspectives of you having to move up in different areas or get to different like hidden areas just by changing your view and seeing the world in a different perspective, basically. Like I said, I'm close to the ending, which there's like a first ending and a second ending apparently. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think it's really good. I definitely think it's worth it if you ever had thought about playing Fez. This has always been one of those games on my list of being like, I really should try it. And I'm glad I did. And I'm glad, obviously, the Epic Game Store gave it for free. But yeah, I definitely recommend it.
I'm going to have to hop back into Fez on a larger screen. Maybe that'll help me.
Where did you originally play it?
On my PS Vita.
Oh.
So
see?
I'm thinking
That's
it's
why that
because
console
of the
died,
small
man.
screen. Yeah. It deserved to fucking die, that tiny ass screen.
Yeah,
Stupid.
That's what happens. Yeah, I mean, I would give it another try. I honestly like, and we talked about this before. I've been having like certain situations where playing games, I've been getting kind of nauseous. I had no issues with Fez, so. I mean, yeah, it might have just been the smaller screen or, you just might be cursed. Who knows?
Yeah, I think I'm just a bitch. I should tell you that I actually did end up purchasing Crosscode. I have yet to play it, but I did buy it on Steam.
Play that damn game. It's so good.
Yeah. It was on sale for like $11.49 or something. So I was like, fuck it, dude. I've got $30 from some shitty MMO I bought that I'll just, I'll buy Crosscode.
Yeah. So
and I also bought Don't Give Up, and I still have $9 left.
Wow.
Much more worth it than some MMO that chugs.
What are you gonna buy now? $9. That's such a large amount.
I mean, it's actually it's pretty remarkable how far $30 can get you on Steam. Like there's a lot of games that are pretty cheap on there, so I'm probably just gonna save it for like a Steam sale or something. Mm-hmm. Just have it on there, whatever kind of a thing. But yeah, I picked up Crosscode. I'm excited to play it. I don't know when I'll get to it specifically, just because I have WoW Classic, Greedfall, and now Don't Give Up.
Let me tell you, you need to reevaluate your priorities, buddy, because all of those are way under Crosscode. You hear me?
Really? That's such a high rating. So much praise.
Crosscode is really good, dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like you would really enjoy it. I mean, it can be a little debilitating with some of the puzzles because it really does ask a lot of you. Like, there were definitely parts because I played originally before they patched in like accessibility options where they toned down the difficulty and of basically enemies and the puzzles, but originally you'd get these puzzles where you have to be very like spot on with timing, and there were times where I would figure out a puzzle and be like, there's no way they're asking the player to do all this. That's so much that they're asking for. And I'd be like, nope, that's the only way. All right, I just have to get this right. Like, I would understand a puzzle like 20 times before I really get it down just because of timing concerns. But other than that part, because you can also slow things down now, which they made so much better in the accessibility options for people who don't want to like really meticulously try over and over again. Otherwise, it's such a good game.
I will have to try it out. But speaking of just kind of slogs and trying things out, I think it's about time we hop into the news, considering we're 30 minutes into this podcast. Thanks for chilling with us.
23 minutes, all right?
Oh,
you chill.
Okay. Yeah, I'll chill out. It's most of the way there, I guess. Our first news article is over on Polygon. It is written by Nicole Carpenter, I believe, and it is Knights and Bikes Indie Co-op Darling is getting a TV show. Indie co-op game Knights and Bikes will be adapted for TV. Developer Foam Sword and publisher Double Fine announced today. Development rights have been optioned by Tiger Aspect, which produced the Mr. Bean animated series.
I don't know why. Yeah, I was like, the only reason I laughed was because you laughed.
It's because it's like, They're like flaunting the fact that Mr. Bean was like done by them.
I mean,
Okay.
hey now, it was,
Is this a widely known and like beloved animated series? I don't think so. Mr. Bean eats balls.
Whoa, man.
He sucks so much. Johnny English, much better.
Hey,
just saying.
It's got a 9.8 out of 10 from iFlix.
Holy shit.
I don't know who iFlix is. And also no one else agrees with them because it's a 6.8 on IMDb and 7.8 on TV.com.
Told you it sucks. Anything below a 9 eats shit. But Knights and Bikes animated TV show will be aimed at 6 to 12-year-olds, the bookseller reported, and will follow Knights and Bikes' best friend duo of Demelza, I believe is her name, and Nessa, and Mesa make chaos with their pet goose, Captain Honkers. The energy and humor and joy that continuously bursts out of TV animations was a large inspiration in creating Knights and Bikes, not just in the way it looks, but also in the themes and tone of the game, co-creator Rex Crowell said in a press release as reported by the bookseller. It's a fantastically fun new development for us to be working with Tiger Aspect on Knights and Bikes, the animated series, and taking things full circle. Knights and Bikes was released in August 27th. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really matter. Book publisher Knights of published a mystery novel written by Gabrielle Kent based on the Knights and Bikes in 2018, ahead of the game's 2019 release. Knights and Bikes co-creator Crowell illustrated the book, also called Knights and Bikes, the book also called Knights and Bikes, a sequel to Kent's first book, Knights and Bikes Rebel Bicycle Club, was published earlier this year. The bookseller reported that more Knights and Bikes books are planned. The rights to develop the series have just been optioned, so there's no time frame for the animated series just yet. Oh my gosh, dude. I love that indie games are getting more and more TV series. I think it's awesome. But how do you feel about this? Have you played Knights and Bikes yet? Are you a fan of it at all, or you just? I mean, you're probably you probably read the novels, right?
Yeah, dude. I'm a big Knights and Bikes fan. No, and I don't mean that like in a bad way. I actually don't know.
You're definitely shitting on this game, dude.
I don't know a lot about Knights and Bikes. I've seen it back at like some E3s, and I've seen gameplay of it. I think it's super cute and it's a cool concept. I definitely think this hits the mark with being something that would be in that 6 to 12 range, like 6 to 12-year-olds. This apparently is a lot more popular than I thought it was, especially with like all the books and different things that they're doing for this. I just assumed this was a random game that was kind of coming out of nowhere. But I didn't know much about Knights and Bikes. I think it's cool that they're potentially getting a series, because this is what they're, it's called, they're optioning it, which essentially, do you know what optioning means?
I'm assuming these days they're like pitching it to different studios.
So yeah, kind of. So I had to look this up, and optioning is basically they're like, it's essentially someone who wants to create it says, hey, give me a finite time where I own the rights to this, to then do the work to get prepared to actually see if we can get this done. So essentially, this is a limited time thing that might turn into nothing.
That sounds like most, I'm assuming what most indie game TV series are going to be. It's like...
Yeah, so, because now, like, basically that individual who has picked up or basically optioned it now has to go through all the work of finding out, the hoops and whatever of how do we get this done, and then they have to meet the mark of whatever contract that they signed with the people who have the Knights and Bikes licenses, of if they still agree to those terms, if anything had changed, or who has to actually be a part of this to make it a reality, which I think is kind of...
How much you want to bet that Netflix picks this up?
I mean, I would say yeah, but then again, like, Netflix obviously is a big one, but there's like a lot of competitors who are coming up now. Like, there's definitely a lot of services coming out now that I feel like would still want to grab anything they can, especially to compete with Netflix. And if this is something that has some kind of following, then I don't see why not. But yeah, it'll probably be Netflix. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd assume so. Speaking of seeing, our next news article is also on Polygon, and it is written by Russ Frushtick, maybe? I don't really know how to say that last name, to be honest. Maybe. I don't even... Okay, I'm just going to give up on last names from now on. Here's the full list of games coming to Apple Arcade on launch day. Apple Arcade, the company's subscription game service that offers up an all-you-can-eat buffet of iOS, Apple TV, and Mac games for $4.99 per month. I don't know why I had so many issues with that.
It's okay.
Launches on Thursday. It's a buffet, I've heard.
Jimmy Buffett.
Yes, this is already launched by the time you guys are hearing this. So you guys can, if you have iOS, Apple TV, Mac, whatever, you guys can do this. I can't because I don't have any of those things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been a big fan of Apple.
Oh, so this is only for... You know what? That's kind of funny, actually. I didn't know you had to be in their ecosystem. I should have read this, but I just kind of glossed over that part.
It's really backfiring on me. My issues with Apple. I'm just like, hey, you like indie games? Fuck you.
That's really funny, actually, because, like... I looked at this and I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'll consider this, but now I won't. I have no way to even be a part of it if I wanted to.
I guess some of these games are going to be exclusives, but others might come to other platforms. It's not really it's kind of up in the air. But I'm not going to go through the full list because there's a lot. There's upwards of 100 games coming to this service. It's pretty crazy. So just a couple that really pop out. There's a new Shantae game coming. Shantae and the Seven Sirens. What the Golf is coming. Lego Brawls, which is, that's kind of weird to have a Lego game on there. Overland, Exit the Gungeon, the follow-up to Enter the Gungeon, which I'm going to say is I'm going to say this and it's going to sound mean, but let me kind of get to the end of it. It sounds like kind of a cop-out in a weird way, specifically because Dodge Roll, I believe, is the company that makes the developers who make Enter the Gungeon. Remember when they said that they didn't want to work on Enter the Gungeon anymore?
Yeah, they were like, we're moving on to newer pastures.
Yeah, there's Exit the Gungeon. Maybe they outsource that to somebody else, but I don't really know. Let me check. Exit the Gungeon. Okay, you check while I go through more of this. Some other ones we've got. There's a Frogger and Toy Town game, which apparently looks like it eats shit. People are not happy about it. I guess I was listening to the HP podcast, and Ben actually has Apple stock, and he said stock dropped when they announced Frogger. Wow. It literally dropped. I guess it's gone back up since, but at the time it did, which is kind of hilarious. Oceanhorn 2 is on there. I don't know what spec is. Neocab, which is pretty insane because Neocab hasn't even released on Steam yet, and it's coming to Apple Arcade first. That's pretty crazy. Atone. What are some other ones we got here? Cat Quest 2 is going to be on there. Some weird shit happened, though. I guess it seems like some of these developers hadn't yet announced that their game was going to come to Apple Arcade.
And they just fucking outed them.
Yeah, they did. They outed them. Apple ended up coming out and just being like, Sayonara Wild Hearts. They hadn't announced yet that it was coming early to Apple Arcade, and then it did. Apple just announced it. They're like, Sayonara Wild Hearts is coming Apple Arcade. It's just right now. And then they're like, okay.
Well, I guess we'll confirm it.
Yeah, they're like, it is, but thanks, guys. So You were excited, but now cannot play this.
Now I am not. By the way, update on that. So Exit the Gungeon is going to be from the same developers, Dodge Roll. And apparently their statement on it is that it is a spin-off rather than a sequel, pointing out that it is a smaller game than Enter the Gungeon. So nothing really specific to the fact that it's like the same style. But I guess maybe what they meant was they just wanted to do something in a different like platform, and I know that sounds stupid because it is now a platformer in like a side-scrolling platformer.
Exit the Gungeon definitely does look way different than Enter the Gungeon, so it makes sense.
Yeah, they're just experimenting with other stuff, which I think is a good idea though, because especially if they're saying this is more of a spin-off and they're just kind of trying to have fun with it, I think it makes sense as like a little like, here you go, here's, something random for Apple TV. It's just us messing with stuff, and then maybe down the road they'll come out, like if it's good, they'll come out with something that has more of that style that's maybe a new IP rather than Gungeon.
This is kind of a stupid thing to say because, of course, people get angry about everything nowadays, but how much you want to bet people are super fucking pissed that they canceled that Enter the Gungeon DLC so that they could stop working on Enter the Gungeon, and then they were like, yeah, we're making Exit the Gungeon.
Yeah, it's totally different, guys. I mean,
I could see people getting pretty pissed. I think it's not dumb. It's definitely like, I could see you being angry, and it would kind of make sense. I mean, don't be a dick about it, but
yeah,
whatever. The game is different. Apparently, it's like a pseudo. I'm gonna say a pseudo sequel because I believe it's a follow up, and it's actually that like the Gungeon like basically collapses on itself in a paradox or something,
and you're trying to escape it.
Yeah, it is kind of what's going on. It's weird, dude. The story of Enter the Gungeon is weird.
I don't know much about it. But like,
you're in search of a gun that can kill time, so
you see, this is the thing. I'm pretty dumb. I've played Enter the Gungeon so much, but I just don't pay attention. I'm like, whoop, time to work on my mechanics. I don't care about any of, like, you're so different when it comes to playing these games.
I mean, maybe that's why you actually get further in them and I do not.
I mean, I don't know. Regardless, about the actual story, I'm pretty bummed actually that Apple Arcade is apparently only to their ecosystem, because there's actually not that bad of a lineup. Like, the games specifically, there's Overland, Shantae, I think Cardpocalypse is coming out later. There's a couple of really good games on here just from the start that I would want to even jump in right away. But what's even more interesting is that this is Apple coming with a lot of big, and if not big, but well-known developers or publishers, because they have people like Devolver Digital, they have Ubisoft, they have Konami, they have, let's see, who else? Cly Entertainment, Capcom. Like, there's a good amount of well-known studios in here. There's a lot of Devolver Digital, which is a cool thing, especially since like a lot of people have said they wanted something like a Devolver Digital pack because they produce a lot of good games, and this is basically it. Like,
plus they're pretty lo-fi, so I feel like they could easily be played on like iPads and such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's kind of true. Yeah, it is kind of weird. I don't know. Well, I'll never know.
Are there any indie games that you would like to see come to a service like this? Like, not necessarily this because you can't really play it, but something similar, like or just come to mobile in general. Like, we've had Dead Cells go mobile. We've had Hyper Light Drifter as well. That game company made Sky exclusively for mobile. So are there any like developers or just games in general that you would like to see go to a mobile platform? Or you think would work really well?
Yeah, me personally, no, I never want anything mobile.
Damn.
I know. It's so like, I just don't like playing games on my phone. And especially now that I have a Switch, like, I'm always like, what's the point? The Switch is mobile enough for me. But games just end up destroying my phone battery, and I have just a huge negative connotation with mobile games in general, because most of the time they're just gotcha games or trying to steal your money or, wait to play games, which I don't have any patience for. So I generally just don't like a lot of mobile platforms or mobile type games. But I think there's a lot of games out there from an indie perspective that would work well. I think Spelunky would be really good for a mobile platform, especially since they're coming out with Spelunky 2. I think they could be something that would go to an Apple Arcade. I don't want them to in an exclusive lineup, but I'm pretty damn sure they're not going to. But there's definitely games out there, and there's definitely people who play mobile games more than I would. It's just definitely not my thing.
All right. Speaking of not your thing, which
Well,
doesn't really
I
make a
mean-
whole lot of sense,
No.
actually.
Yeah.
Our next news article is also on Polygon. A lot of Polygon, dude. Polygon's kind of stepping it up recently with indie games related news.
Yeah.
Normally, I get the majority from Nintendo Life or
Ever since Game Informer dumped.
Yeah, I was gonna say normally I would actually get a lot of it from Game Informer, but Game Informer has like 2 articles a week now. I'm like, damn, this is depressing.
Slow.
I don't know how their other content's going, but
I mean,
it's not great.
well, negative news all around.
That's true. Our next news article is written by Charlie Hall, and it is Kickstarter under fire from creators over labor dispute. Crowdfunding platform Kickstarter is receiving pressure from creators and backers for what some perceive as anti-union activity. The company denies accusations it is hostile towards its workers. Meanwhile, dozens of creators have signed a letter of support for the employees at Kickstarter. Their fledgling union, called Kickstarter United, is asking for patience as at this time. All of us organizing with Kickstarter United are committed to the mission of Kickstarter, the union wrote on Twitter late last week. We are not calling on creators who rely on Kickstarter to abandon live or planned projects, plural, of course, just naturally. Unionization efforts at Kickstarter went public in March on the same day that Aziz Hassan, I believe is how you say his name, head of the design and product teams, assumed the role of interim CEO. They proceeded more or less quietly until this month when the company terminated 2 employees, Clarissa Redwine and Taylor Moore, which I'm going to say Clarissa Redwine totally sounds like a made-up name. It sounds like that girl made an alter ego and she was just sitting in her kitchen or something. That's suspicious. Let's just be real there. Both were involved in union organization activities, and both were asked to sign non-disclosure agreements in order to receive severance. Both say they declined, which I'm going to say right now is kind of a fucked up thing to do, to ask somebody to sign an NDA to get severance. I don't know. Where I live is a right-to-work state, so they aren't required to offer you severance, and I'm not sure if really any company is required to offer you severance, but
I mean, it's definitely just more of them being leverage to shut them up.
Yeah, it seems like they're doing some sketchy shit. Right off the bat, they kind of seem like supervillains. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but they say some weird stuff. The Office and Professional Employees International Union, the OPEIU, Local 153, which I don't know what any of that means. That's just gibberish. Which represents the employees of Kickstarters United, has filed a formal charge with the National Labor Relations Board related to those firings. Publicly available documents cite an unlawful broad dispassionate clause.
Wow.
No.
Way to read it exactly as the word is.
I don't think it is at all. How do you say that?
Disparagement.
Disparagement. There you go. I said dispassionate.
Yeah.
That's not at all what that
How did
word
you?
is.
Yeah, I was reading the actual document. I was like, that was not. Yeah.
That's
All right.
not how you say that. That's a big word. That's a
No.
big one. It's got a lot of letters in it.
It's the act of speaking about someone in a negative or belittling way.
Interesting. Oh, okay. That sounds like defamation, but all right. That's interesting. There might be synonyms.
Not dispassionately.
Redwine was the first to go public with news of her termination. In a series of tweets, she says that she was forced out for performance issues, in quotes, but that she exceeded all performance metrics. In the most recent quarter, the implication is that her organizing activities were upsetting to management, so they moved to end her employment as efficiently as possible, since I just really cannot read. Kickstarter, and this is her tweeting, Kickstarter I will not be signing your termination agreement containing a non-disclosure, oh my god, it's that fucking word again, non-disparagement clause. You can keep my severance, with a strong arm emoji, which is... This is a real power move there. Yeah. Just like, fuck you, Kickstarter. Kickstarter is...
You know what? I'm a big old dummy. I just put in disparagement. Non-disparagement clause, it's literally just meaning a departure of employment. Like...
All right.
Yeah, so it's basically just the fact that they got fired and they shouldn't have been.
That's weird. Okay, Kickstarter is its employees, creators, and backers. A handful of folks at the top isn't Kickstarter. So to Kickstarter, advocate for the platform you deserve and continue to support creative work. It's time for solidarity. #unionize. Kickstarter's management continues to state that I was fired for performance issues. I find that strange because I not only met but exceeded all performance metrics in Q2. I was great at my job and loved it. Yeah, man, she's just like, she's really sucking her own dick there, dude. She's like, I'm just so good. Which is cool. I'm glad she knows she was good at her job. Kickstarter itself was quick to counter Redwine's narrative on the company's official social media channel. Kickstarter's leadership, and this is a quote from Kickstarter, Kickstarter's leadership is committed to protecting our staff's right to decide if a union is the best path for them. That decision remains in their hands. This is where they start to sound like a supervillain. Mm-hmm. This sounds like some fucking creepy shit. Kickstarter tweeted, in the last 6 months, Kickstarter's leadership has worked to foster an environment where the right to unionize and the rules around that process are followed and respected. We'll be clear, no Kickstarter employee has been or ever will be fired for union organizing. Polygon has reached out to both Kickstarter United and Kickstarter management for comment. Meanwhile, some creators are taking a wait-and-see approach to their next crowdfunding campaign. Tabletop RPG publisher Evil Hat Productions, for instance, is delaying the launch of its 15th campaign to see how this shakes out. More than 100 other creators have signed on to a letter for the editorial staff of Current Affairs. We call on Kickstarter to respect the unionization effort and to cease all illegal retaliation, states the letter. We also ask other Kickstarter project creators to express their solidarity with Kickstarter Workers Union, and to commend the company's firings, or not condemn. Damn it, I always get the two mixed up.
That is
every single time.
They're so different.
Yeah, they're completely opposing ideas. I don't know how I get it every time. Yes, they ask for you to condemn it as well. So we have a section of this podcast that frequently talks about Kickstarter.
I know. Well, death to God Bless the Crowd.
Yeah, I mean, we could always try to like hop into some other stuff, but yeah, God Bless the Crowd is almost, it heavily utilizes Kickstarter, and I feel a little bit weird about us using Kickstarter if this kind of shit is going on, but also I don't want these small creators to go, like, their projects to go unnoticed. So I don't know, in our situation, and it's not, in reality, is not like this at all, because we are in no way affiliated with any of this. It's just something we talk about. It's kind of like a hostage situation where we care about the developers, so we don't want to necessarily, like, not that I don't want to say anything bad about them, but we I don't know, aren't going to stop reporting on cool Kickstarter stuff, specifically because the developers are who we're there for. It's not for Kickstarter itself.
Right, exactly. That's kind of the same like quarrel I had to go with through in my head. I was like, do I start looking for these games this week? I was like, do I not? Do we make a stance? But ultimately, that's kind of the same page that I stuck on was, well, the Kickstarter crew, although important to the life of Kickstarter itself as an organization, really it's at the end of the day about the creator and the originator of this idea of this product. So it was one of those things where I also don't want to do them a disservice by being like, oh, okay, well, Kickstarter is doing bad stuff, so because you randomly were just trying to fund your game in any way possible and try to make something of your cool idea, that now we have to be like, oh, well, if you're on Kickstarter, we can't talk about you because no, Kickstarter is bad. Which, granted, also we don't know the full story, although it definitely seems like it's leaning towards Kickstarter being in the wrong place on that side of things. But at the same time, I'd still want to give credit to those indie developers who obviously have something out there that's pretty cool to show that off.
Yeah, I think the only way that we will stop talking about Kickstarter or stop including them in God Bless the Crowd is if developers really take a stance and decide that they will no longer be using Kickstarter.
Which they might. And that'll be the interesting thing, is to see how this pans out, because there's a lot of other sites out there that have, very similar structures to Kickstarter, but aren't as popular for things like games. And it would be interesting to see if there was a shift in things like, Indiegogo or other crowdfunding sites that start becoming bigger just because that section of people, whether it be games or just other, inventions, ideas, start spawning off to another location because of this. I don't really know what the future holds.
Yeah. I hope if this stuff is true, the developers will really take a stand and decide to move to a different platform. But if they don't, even like Clarissa Redwine says, Kickstarter is its employees, creators, and backers. A handful of folks at the top isn't Kickstarter.
Exactly.
So, yeah, kind of holding it against like a terrible decision that the management, like holding their terrible decision against everyone else would kind of be fucked up in its own way. So we're just going to keep going on. If developers like jump ship, we will too. We don't really have allegiance to Kickstarter, so that's what we're going to say about that, I guess.
You really should have put this one as our last article, so we could
definitely should have
transitioned to God Bless the Crowd. But I guess we also have News Cram anyway. But all right.
Yeah, bitch. Jeez.
On that note.
Speaking of transitions, our last news story for today that we're going to cover in depth is kind of a crazy one. It is over on Nintendo Life, written by Damian McFerrin, and is also based on a Kotaku article written by Jason Schreier. So either way, you could check those out. Damian's kind of just goes through and does like a TLDR of it. So we're just going to go through his because Jason wrote, I swear, dude, 12 pages. It's
Jason
long.
Does some good stuff.
Yeah, he's very meticulous. He is very in-depth, and I love that. He does his job very, very well. So, yeah, if you guys are looking for just the entirety of it, go check out Kotaku. But this is Nicholas Investigation Reveals Tales of Ghosting, Slurs, and Mistreatment of Staff. Nicholas is a company that will need no introduction to Nintendo fans. It has been responsible for bringing some amazing indie titles to Wii, 3DS, Wii U, and Switch, including Cave Story Plus, Blade Strangers, Crystal Crisis, Ikaruga, VVVVVVV. I was just going to say that game with all the V's in it, but I figured I'd just say it. Binding
good.
of Isaac and Save Me, Mr. Taco. Tasuki Keto Taco-san, maybe. I don't think I said that right.
I don't know. I like it that way, though.
Nicholas's track record when it comes to software speaks for itself, and the indie landscape on Nintendo Nintendo formats would be considerably poorer were it not for the firm's efforts. However, a recent investigation by Kotaku has revealed some troubling issues at the company. Kotaku has spoken to several former staff and partners and has heard tales of racism, ghosting, and exploitation of employees, as well as questionable business practices when it comes to working with indie developers. Nicholas boss Tyrone Rodriguez is accused of ignoring development partners after signing deals, a practice which has resulted in studios having to find alternative arrangements when it comes to bringing their titles to market. The game backers, developers of Fury, spoke to Kotaku and revealed that it had wanted to work with the publisher and bring the game to consoles in 2017. The game backers co-founder Audrey Leprince, said, "What?"
I said, "Sure."
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, we're going to go with that one. She said, "We sent the project. They evaluated the cost. Evaluated the cost. I at first thought it said elevated, but it actually says evaluate. I was like, damn, they told you fucking they're going to charge you? That's crazy." No, they evaluated the cost, sent a first contact draft that we sent back with changes, but then they started ghosting us. No answers, not answering emails, Skype calls. We waited for 3 weeks, tried to contact them several times. Finally, they answered that they were sorry and would send us a mail the next week. Time passed. We were going to E3. They were there. Just give a little bit of context, and offered to see them there. We reminded them how acting fast was important, so eventually we sent a message saying the deal was off considering the communication breakdown. Gamebackers' other co-founder, Emmerich Tho, that's a cool name. That's a dope name. Posted a warning on Twitter, which I'm going to say right now, this is not a warning, just to say. This is just kind of like a hey, DM me thing, but whatever. If you are a small indie and considering working with Nicholas and want an opinion about them, please don't hesitate to DM me. It's a small industry. Actions have consequences.
I mean, the context is pretty obvious there.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not really a warning. If anything, it's kind of like I'm coming for your ass, Nicholas.
Maybe.
So yeah. There's also evidence of Nicholas ignoring and refusing to issue patches for games it has published. In February of last year, Lizard Cube, developers of Wonder Boy The Dragon's Trap, which is a great game, took to Twitter to say that it had submitted a Switch patch to Nicholas, but had been ignored, something Rodriguez publicly denied not long afterwards. More recently, a patch for Save Me Mr. Taco, and I'm not going to say the end of that because it's a little crazy, was submitted by the developer, but never issued because, according to Rodriguez, and this is a quote, "The game did not yet make back what we put into it. We have a policy of stringent QA testing before pushing releases, and we do not have the space in our budget to QA test the patch so we can push it out." Which is, I feel like if you want your game to sell, you need to patch issues. So
it's generally,
that seems counterproductive.
Broken games are generally frowned upon, so, you know.
Yeah, like we talked about last week. So, interesting decision you made there. 90s Arcade Racer, a crowdfunding Wii U game, which was taken on by Nicholas after hitting its Kickstarter goal, has been stuck in limbo for years, and Atonis Pelikanos, maybe? I don't know how to say that. I'm going to be honest. Its creator is no longer involved with the project, which now goes by the name 90s Super GP. However, Nicholas recently confirmed that the game is still in development, so there may be a happy ending to that tale. The report also details some rather worrying racial and homophobic slurs used by Rodriguez in private chats and in the workplace, as well as mistreatment and abuse of staff. Rather than detailing these accounts here, we'd highly recommend you read the entire report, which is over on Kotaku. Also, a result of the investigation, Edmund McMillan, the creator of Binding of Isaac, has said that he will not be working with Nicholas beyond the upcoming Binding of Isaac Repentance. And this is a quote from him. I won't be moving forward with Nicholas when it comes to the port of The Legend of Bumbo or any console versions of Mugenics. Binding of Isaac Repentance will still be releasing as originally planned. The team poured their heart and soul into this DLC and it's very close to releasing. This is a long one. Nicholas has issued the following statement regarding the report. Developing and publishing games is a dream for the staff of nearly 20 years that work at Nicholas Inc. Some of our team have been with the company almost a decade, and we work hard to create an environment where we treat our team members with respect. They are what make the company. We do not condone abusive workplace environments or discrimination and have people from all walks of life. We hope for the continued success of our internal team and our external developers. Regarding the companies under mutual NDA with Nicholas, Devolver, publisher of Enter the Gungeon, and the game backers, developer of Fury, we can only comment that we do not have any signed publishing agreements with them and never have. Yeah, this is a long one.
It's pretty crazy. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, like, well, first off, there's a lot to break down from this that's pretty messed up. The not solving things that are patched, just being generally rude and, complacent to working with those individuals after they've already signed agreements. I think one of the craziest thing, though, is actually in the Kotaku article where there's a bunch of, it looks like screen capped recordings from group chats from, it's a number of Skype logs that I guess people had sent based on Tyrone's just his just demeanor. I don't know, I'm reading through these and some of them are just ridiculous. Let me see. So most of them I can't really say, but one of them specifically that I was like, wow, what a response, was he basically goes, someone asks him, have we heard anything from Sony and or Nintendo regarding PAX? And the guy goes, as far as, and he goes, if our build is a yes or no. Sony, yes. Nintendo seems no. And he goes, or the guy goes, which is what I expected. And so replying back, the anonymous person in this situation was like, why doesn't Nintendo want it? And he just replies back with, because they're gay. Like, what? These are like official conversations that you're having with your employees.
And he also says, okay, so if it's just, oh shit.
Yeah, there's some
that gets so much fucking worse.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the really bad one, the two last bad ones.
Yeah, I was gonna say just how he says, but Obama's fucking everything up, and then under that is so fucked up.
Yeah, there's some really terrible stuff that's on this. I will not say it, but if you want to check it out, go to Jason Schreier's article. Yeah.
Okay, this guy's such a dick. He makes a fucked up racist joke and then says that may have been one of my best.
Yeah.
This guy is such a fucking asshole, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we said this, I kind of mentioned it before we actually started recording, but what a time to be in the games industry. I feel like every other week we're getting all of these crazy stories about how people are just awful. It's really upsetting and demoralizing. Yeah. They have updated this to include a section where Tyrone has spoken about this. He said, I wrote some terribly insensitive, stupid remarks in DMs that don't represent who I am. Just because they were done in a private situation while trying to be funny and edgy doesn't make them any less terrible. They're indefensible and unacceptable. As someone who has experienced racism and discrimination in my life, I should know better and must be a better person. I can't throw around words for shock value or because I think they'd get a laugh.
I want to also clarify that my insensitivity and vulgarity shouldn't reflect on the people I work with. They're very good people and shouldn't be held responsible for for my own actions. If I've hurt you and wasn't aware until today that I might have, I hope you can forgive me someday. I think he took to Twitter to say that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, this guy's a dick.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't matter if we accept his apology in any way because we're not included. But still, that guy's such an asshole.
I know, yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't accept his apology.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about Nicholas moving forward, especially since I've been such a big fan of them in the past. I'm wondering if this is kind of just issues that were kind of spawned because of Tyrone Rodriguez or because of some other reason. I really enjoy a lot of what Nicholas has put out. I have purchased several of their games. I've bought Cave Story. I bought Binding of Isaac. I bought a bunch of these different games that were published by them. They weren't developed by them, but I've been a fan of theirs. They've actually put out some quality stuff, and they include keychains in their stuff, which I think is super cool.
Clearly,
just saying.
Well worth it for all the anti-Semitic and racist comments.
Yeah, absolutely. So worth it for me to get some keychains. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this because I feel like if it's just this one guy saying fucked up shit and everything, I could get over it. But I don't know how that actually does reflect on the company.
Right, exactly.
If there are other people within saying this, and also him saying anything about I don't know, just because they were done in private situations while trying to be funny and edgy doesn't make them any less terrible. It's they were done in private situations through work, dude. You were in a business situation where you called Obama a super racist term. Some really fucked up shit. Yeah, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing because there's a fine line sometimes between a joke and a comment that goes too far, but it's hard to justify a lot of those comments as oh, these are jokes. They don't.
Yeah, they definitely seem very hateful.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. It sounds like we're getting to the end of this section of the podcast, so it's about time we hop into news, Cram.
Cram me with some good stuff. Cram.
I was expecting you to not actually do the crams, and you just cram me with some good stuff.
Maybe that'll be the the tagline now.
I hope so. That's pretty fantastic. News Cram is our weekly wrap-up segment where we, the host of Indie Incursion and Indie Games podcast, cram you full of all sorts of indie games news. This week, in News Cram, we have, I believe, 2 indie game news stories that are just going to go by real quick before we hop into some new stuff. Our first news story for this week comes by way of Charlie Hall over at Polygon. He reports that indie horror game Devotion by Red Candle Games, known mostly for its removal from Steam due to a controversial Easter egg mocking Chinese President Xi Jinping, I believe is how you say his name, is still in limbo as to if it will ever return to the retail platform despite the developers' multiple apologies. This next news story is courtesy of Liam Doolin, I believe is how you say his name, over at Nintendo Life. He reports that 3 songs from Toby Fox's Undertale will make their way to Taiko no Tsujin, known as Taiko no Tsujin Drum and Fun, to Western audiences on October 10th. These 3 songs are Megalovania, Heartache, and Hopes and Dreams. Sadly, there is currently no word on whether or not these will be added to Western versions of the games as well. Now it's time for some new stuff, because we got quite a bit of it. For those worried that obscure indie game Sayonara Wild Hearts would only be coming to Apple Arcade and Nintendo Switch, worry not. It will be releasing simultaneously not only on Apple Arcade and Nintendo Switch, but PlayStation 4 as well on September 19th. Action rhythm game Neon Drive will arrive on Nintendo Switch in all its neon glory this September 19th. Just in case any of our listeners are diehard handheld gamers, we've got some news on a new indie game heading to the Nintendo 3DS, and that is Shakedown Hawaii, the follow-up to Retro City Rampage. It will hit the eShop shelves on September 19th in North America and September 26th in Europe. Also included is the aptly named Full Tank Update, which adds several new features, including, and you guessed it, tanks. Physical indie game fans like myself will be happy to know that by the time this is airing, you can pre-purchase a physical copy of roguelike platformer Downwell. These will be available through Special Reserve Games and will cost you $24.99 for a PS4 copy and $29.99 for the Nintendo Switch. Fantasy puzzle adventure game The Eyes of Ara is coming to the Nintendo Switch on October 15th. Cute and quirky indie survival game Forager is getting a much anticipated physical release on the Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 4 on October 22nd. And last but not least, casual puzzle game Mole Cats is now available on the Nintendo Switch and will cost a grand total of $12.99. So, Big Josh boy, we've been blessed with so many amazing indie game news stories today that it's about time that we give back to the creators in our next segment, God Bless the Crowd. This is where the biggest of average Josh boys hops into all sorts of different crowdfunding sites and we talk about those games. So today we have two different games. As we normally do, we've got School Wars, a high school adventure game. Also, you can date you could go on a date with a broccoli girl, and Solasta, Crown of the Magister, a new turn-based tactical CRPG made by the co-founders of the studio that brought you Endless Legend. So, School Wars looks weird.
Yeah, a little bit.
It looks really weird. Yes, you can seemingly date a piece of broccoli, which is odd. I'm gonna go through the actual, like, the stuff you need to know real quick. They are currently their goal is $5,532. They have $2,348 with 57 backers and 21 days left to go. This game looks weird as shit. You can get it for a mere $9 if you want the early bird, or $12 for the actual copy of the game. So how do you feel about this game, Big Josh?
To be honest, like, I watched this originally and I feel the same way I do now. I really don't know what type of game to expect from
me neither.
This. Like,
don't know what this
there's
game
a random part where it's like a music rhythm game, and then I guess it's kind of like a dating sim in some ways because you can date random characters. It just seems like you essentially are this high school student who has to go about high school wars. I don't even know really what would you do? I
honestly couldn't tell you. It seems to have, like, you have a fucking time travel power where it's like, okay, that's a little weird. Like, have you ever wished you could undo all the stupid things you said to people? Well, now you can with the new time travel powers. So what the fuck is this game, dude?
I don't know. I'm really confused, but honestly, like, in an intrigued way. Like, it seems kind of fun, and I liked and you might shit on the trailer or their actual intro video that most Kickstarters get shit on by you. But I actually enjoyed
this one. Makes no fucking sense. That is the only reason I'm gonna shit on it. I'm not gonna talk about, like, the poor audio and visual quality when it switches over to the developer, because I understand that there are technical limitations to what you actually have. But Yeah, it makes no sense. What is your game, dude?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it. Like I was like, oh, this is kind of hype. Like there's a lot going on, but I was like, okay. When it ended and it went to her, I thought she would be like, I'm gonna explain more about what it is, but she didn't. And I was like, okay, well, this is a little confusing. But I'm still like, it's one of those things where I kind of want to back it just because I want to see where it goes.
Because Nicolia likes playing DDR, huh?
See, that's clearly
that's
why.
your kind of person there, dude.
I mean, yeah, it's yeah, man. If only it wasn't banned from my household.
Is this banned from your household?
Didn't I tell you that story? I thought I told you that
No.
story. Oh, okay, we're going to get on a tangent. So I used to have a metal DDR pad. So basically it would be the 4 buttons and you would hook it up into, it had a connection for either a PS2, an Xbox, or a PC. And so what I would do is I would download Stepmania, which was essentially just a freeware version of DDR that you could download songs and the step patterns that were, from the actual systems, and you could play on your computer. And so I would hook my metal pad into it, and I had this like metal bar that I created myself, and I would just use that and I would play in my house. And I did that for many years because I used to basically, when I wasn't at the arcade, I'd be like, all right, well, I still want to play, and it's like late, so I'm just going to play at my house. So I stopped playing many years ago, but I brought it out one day when this was before me and my wife had got married, but it was when we were engaged. I showed it to her because my dad was throwing away stuff in his house, and I picked it up basically. And so I brought it over and I was like, oh yeah, this is what, like, this was a big part of my life before I had met you. You should try it out with me. And she's like, okay. And she had a lot of fun with it, and we were playing, and she was obviously very bad. And I told her specifically, I said, you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna feel like you're getting better, and you're gonna see too many arrows because you'll go on a difficulty that's higher than you're ready for. When you see so many arrows, don't panic and try to hit all of them because you're gonna hurt yourself. So she disobeyed those rules, and she tore her ACL.
Oh my God.
So, and it was the loudest fucking snap and scream I've heard in my life. And it was fucking terrible. That was the big, like, she tore her ACL and we didn't know what it was until like 2 weeks later. So she was just like hobbling around and in terrible pain and couldn't walk properly, had to get surgery, had to basically go through physical therapy, had to go through all this shit. So obviously, anytime it comes up, she's very upset with that game and is like, no, get rid of that friggin' pad. It's out of here. So I don't have it anymore because I was like, all right, I'll get rid of the pad. And now anytime I'm like talking to her or it comes up, because my group of friends, I still have some who were like, they used to play with me. Every time they bring it up and they're like, oh, we should look for like a cabinet and try to find a machine that's, still around. She always will get like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't want you to have this problem, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm never going to have that same problem because I don't wildly throw my legs out at arrows that I know I can't hit. DDR. I am good, damn it. I never broke my ACL. So, yeah. It was a long,
oh my God, that's fantastic.
Story. But yeah, so now it's banned from my household because
your wife was scorned by DDR?
Yeah. You know what the funniest part about that is? She was playing ITG, and ITG had a couple of songs that were like famous from a pop culture standpoint in America, and she tore her ACL to the song Torn.
Yeah, that's super ironic.
Super ironic. And we thought about it like a year later, and she was like, that's not funny. And I was like, it is hilarious.
It was like one of those moments where she's like, that's not funny. And you're like, yeah, you got it, man. It's kind of funny.
But she's doing well now, and she can walk. But, I mean, she'll forever...
I sure hope so.
Yeah, she'll forever have issues with her leg because of DDR. And that's why it's banned. So anyway, that was a long-winded story to bring us back of how we know nothing of this game.
Yeah. I couldn't even tell you if this actually was a rhythm game or not. It looks really cute. I like the art style a lot, which is pretty crazy because in her kind of like devlog at the end, she talks about the inspiration of this game being a comic book that she and her sister were making together, which people thought, like when they went to different publishers, they thought it was funny, but they didn't like the art style, which I actually like her art a lot. It's weird, it's quirky, it just seems really interesting. I mean, not enough busty anime chicks, you know?
That's true.
But
yeah, I was kind of interested in that comment because I was like, why didn't they like this style? It makes me think maybe it was a long time ago and her style got, like, her artistic ability got much better, because I don't see anything wrong with this. Like, this looks like something that could easily be in a comic book and do well. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks... I mean, this game looks really interesting. I honestly think that the reason that the game doesn't really seem to have a set direction is because she says in there that she does art. She has no experience doing really like story design, game design, or programming, and she's doing all three. Programming is also being worked on by another individual, and the music and sound by somebody else, but she's doing a lot for this Kickstarter, so I hope it works out for her. But yeah, I don't know what this game is, dude.
Yeah,
I don't understand what it is.
It's a little bit of a risk, but it's only like $12.
It's super cheap.
Yeah,
it's like $9, $12. Like their early bird, they still have one left.
Yeah.
So you can pick it up if you want to for $9 or just $12 to get a digital copy of the game, which the estimated delivery is December 2020. I don't know if that's really going to be anything, but
I don't know.
This is cool. I hope it succeeds. But let's talk about the one that I'm almost 100% guaranteed that it's going to succeed, because people really like CRPGs. This is Solasta, Crown of the Magister. I already said it is a turn-based CRPG. This game looks freaking cool, dude. I mean, I don't like the price point of, I believe, $28 to get a copy of the game outside the early bird. But this game looks really, really cool, especially if you're a fan of tabletop role-playing games or Dungeons and Dragons specifically. I mean, it definitely helps me a bit that IGN supposedly said that this game might be the Dungeons and Dragons games. It might be the one we deserve. But I don't really know. It kind of just... It looks... I mean, other than the fact that this is like grid-based, it just looks a lot like Divinity or Pillars of Eternity, Torment, Tides of Numenera. Like, it just looks like another CRPG.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what brings it, like, out of the population of those genre games. Like, I don't know what would stand this out from the crowd. It looks really good. It looks like Divinity, which I'm pretty excited about. I loved the Divinity series. I had a lot of fun with it, the most recent one. But I'm not really seeing anything that's like, man, this is going to be the one to beat all of this genre, like this style of game.
Yeah, you could say that they have, maybe it's that they have a vertical, because like Pillars of Eternity and Torment Tides of Numenera did not. They were like isometric games, but Divinity Original Sin does go vertical.
Little bit. Yeah, it had a little bit of that, because you could go, upstairs and have different levels.
Yeah, it actually has like it has a combat game mechanic that you do more damage when you're higher than your enemy.
Exactly.
Like altitude-wise, for like ranger characters.
Yeah, and I guess maybe, because they're talking about, like, I guess the only thing I can see is, like, these spiders that are off on the side of the wall, so I guess you're shooting towards
that is really cool.
The wall space. Like, I'm sure there's some interesting tactics that they're going to go about that. Maybe you'll have a character that can climb up walls or something. Like, that would be kind of cool to break that mold, where it's not just each space on the floor is your grid tile. You can also use the terrain on the side of the walls as well to climb up and to get, different distance. Because maybe you could do something like that where you can't get above them unless you're on the other side. There's a bridge over there, but you can walk up a wall and then shoot downwards towards them. So there's like some kind of mechanic in that adds a layer of strategy, I guess. I don't really know, but that could be something that would be pretty cool.
I mean, something that might also make it special is the fact that you like get a fully customizable party of 4, each of them as important as the others. So instead of making your own hero, you get to make 4 different characters, which, like Divinity, basically all CRPGs allow you to have a large group, like typically a group of 4, but normally you only get to create your character with one of them, whereas this one, or 1 or 2, Divinity's case, you can actually play multiplayer, so you could play 2, but
the multiplayer is not as well balanced.
I haven't even tried it. I've just played it by myself.
It's just,
yeah,
it feels really wonky because there's a lot of things in the game that are paced properly as a single player game, so when you have multiple people trying to do their own thing, it can get a little bit frustrating for certain people. I had a friend who played with us and liked it from a single player perspective, played for a little bit, and then we decided all as a group to play it, and he just absolutely hated it because the pacing is so different when you're only controlling one character and a lot of actions are made by other individuals and you just kind of have to sit there and watch, which generally that's
kind of like playing D&D.
Exactly. It depends on the person, like it's a person-to-person thing, but it does change the pacing for a game when you add multiplayer to it. But that's just a side thing.
I mean, the one thing that I think could really set this game apart, if it does it well, is in D&D, you can do whatever you want. Like, literally whatever you want. You can walk the other way. And, like, when a quest giver is like, hey, want to do this? You're like, no, I don't want to do that. You could just go do whatever you want. So, if this game includes a little bit more of that, obviously it's not going to be like oh, yeah, you could just say fuck off to the story and do whatever you want. Like, go run a freaking tavern in bumfucked Egypt. It's...
I mean,
you
maybe.
don't... Yeah, it's obviously not going to do that, but allowing you to do more in combat would be really interesting, because it seems like most CRPGs just include stuff like, oh, there's oil on the ground, you can light it on fire, versus D&D is so much more complex. You could do so many more weird things. Like, you're like, oh, there's a wire suspending something, I'm gonna shoot at it to see if it causes some sort of chain reaction. Like, there's so much more improvisation. Like, you have to improvise so much more in D&D, and I hope that maybe this game gives you a bit more of that. But that's just me kind of spitballing as to what might make this game really special. There's no evidence of that anywhere, but it seems like these people that are making the game are big fans of this type of game. So maybe this. Yeah. I mean, it looks cool. I actually like this a lot.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just reading over some of the fact sheet part, because one of the things you mentioned, the fully customizable party of 4 characters, I think that's interesting, but it leads itself to be very hard to code, I guess, because, I mean, I guess not, but how customizable can you be if they're part of the story, really? I guess they would just have to change like a bunch of different voice actors and dialogue options, which is potential, but that is a good amount of work.
I honestly bet they just have like 2 different ones for each role depending on your gender, and that's about it.
Maybe. I mean,
because that's how they do it in typical role-playing games.
Yeah, and I feel like it would be pretty impossible, if not to limit it, if they're going to go with. But I mean, how are they defining fully customizable? But
yeah, maybe you won't be able to, like, I mean, let's be real. The only game that I've seen that is truly just 100% fully customizable is Conan Exiles, and it's because I can make myself have a huge dong. So,
well, maybe you'll get that in this too. Maybe
that's what I want from them, is to be hung like a horse.
Maybe. I think it's also interesting. I'm just going to fly right past that. I think it's also interesting that it says an epic single-player campaign that will take your party from level 1 to level 10. Doesn't that seem kind of low?
Well, that's a lot like that. I mean, it definitely makes sense. I'm assuming they're planning on putting out additional like content, because this is a lot like Dungeons and Dragons, where campaigns are meant to actually just take your party from like level 1. They generally do ranges. They're like, okay, this campaign is meant to give you like, it's meant to get you from level 1 to 15, or this is meant from level characters 15 to 20, kind of a thing. Like,
right.
that makes sense, and it actually lends to the whole, we're basically making a D&D game. So I guess I understand it, but yeah, you're right. It does feel a little bit limiting. They do have as one of their Kickstarter goals a 4 free archetypes on D&D Beyond, which is kind of cool. If you don't know what that means, it is on D&D Beyond, you can actually kind of use other people's home-brewed classes. Like a lot of people from Critical Role actually make their own classes. Like there's the Gunslinger. There's kind of like I forget what he's called, but he's like a vampire hunter that can use, they use their own blood as like in weird ways, like in sacrifices and shit. Honestly, our group just called that guy the Sniffless Sniper, so because he always used his blood to kill people, and it was kind of gross. But I do think that's really cool. It's a weird thing to have, like, to be included within stretch goals, and these are only kind of the goals for social rewards, right, not an actual paid thing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just pretty excited because I'm interested in getting more like Divinity, and I think it'll be, if it has so much accolade behind it, that they're most likely going to be a pretty legit thing. And I would be very surprised if they didn't hit their goal, because they're pretty darn close and they still have 15 days.
Yeah, I'd be super surprised as well. So I think it's about time we round down this podcast with our random questions of the day. So today we're going to do 2. We're going to do the 2 that are there. So we came up with these on our own because nobody actually sent in any. So feel free to keep an eye on the Twitter for the podcast. On Mondays, I will probably tweet out asking for your questions to be read on the podcast. Today, let's do this first one. What Pokemon do you think should or shouldn't have had an evolution? So this is because now we have Surfetched, or is it Sir Farfetch'd? How do you explain?
Surfetched.
Okay, it's Surfetched.
Yeah.
This is Farfetch'd new evolution, but based on knighthood. It has a leek sword and a feather shield. Or not a feather, a leaf shield. This is weird as hell. I really think like 23 years or something after its initial release, Farfetch'd finally got an evolution.
I think, yeah, that's the part that I think is the weirdest, is that they're just like, oh, what are the characters we never talk about? Hey, this random guy, let's just redo him. Like, I think it's such a weird structure that they're taking those. But at the same time, I really like him. I think the only thing that I'm super pissed about, and we talked about this before, is that he's a sword exclusive, which means I can't get him because I want shield, not sword.
Yeah, I've never really enjoyed that. I understand why they do it. 1, from a commercial reason, because they want you to buy both copies. Fools. But 2, because you can also play with your friends, and it kind of has like an... I don't know. It kind of fosters a community because you have to trade with your friends. I also hate the inclusion of Pokemon that only evolve if you trade them. That has always really bothered me as well.
I don't know. But anyway, do you want to go first or you want me to go?
To the actual question, I don't know of any that should get an evolution, but if I was to subtract an evolution, I'm a big fan of Apom, and Abipom looks like a fucking goober. I hate it. Oof. It should die in a hole. It's got 2 tails with 2 hands. That's dumb, and it's got a stupid face. So F Abipom. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Wow. I don't really have one that should have an evolution other than that really cool bell charm that was in Diamond and Pearl. I like that one. I don't know what its name is, and I don't know if it has an evolution, but it just looked like a bell.
All right. I don't know because I'm pretty much a Gen 1 Pokemon guy. I played a couple of them afterwards, but I don't know much at all other than Gen 1. So I stuck with someone that I thought would be cool. I think, and technically he has one, he or she, depending on what the gender is. But I'd like an evolution of Dugong.
Really?
Yeah, dude, because, okay, here's the thing. So Dugong starts from seal, and he's this tiny, cute little sail, and then he becomes a sea lion. And he's still pretty cute, but he's not as cute. But I think it should get to the third one, and I think they should go more into that sea lion, but like realistic looking lion with like sea accessories and or kind of griffin looking attributes. So he's like this huge...
You just don't want it to be a manatee?
No, what? No.
That would be so funny.
I don't want him to be a manatee. I would hate that. I want him to be this badass sea lion. It's
well,
like,
they fucking ruined Apom for me, so let's ruin Dugong for you and make a manatee.
no, they don't need that.
That would be so funny.
No, they're not gonna do that. They wouldn't do that to my Dugong.
I didn't think that they would screw with Apom, but they did, Josh. They did.
They gotta crush your hopes and dreams. All right, on to question 2.
All right, question 2, and I'm assuming I understand what you mean by this, but if you could play in a video game world like .hack, what would you choose? So what do you mean by that?
So what I mean is like, okay, you know .hack, right? The series, like the concept behind it. Okay, so essentially, not the .hack park specifically, but you actually being able to put on a helmet, put on like gloves, and be like, snap, it's VR, but like you're transferred to that world. So if you could do that in any type of game that's, you know, currently out there, what game would you want that to be possible in?
Are you asking about a specific game or a game genre?
We could do either.
So this is actually kind of interesting. So they actually have this in anime quite often. They call them DMMOs, which is just dive MMOs. Like in Sword Art Online, Overlord. I don't believe Log Horizon is actually one. It might have been, but a lot of anime they include this. Obviously, .hack. Specifically a game, what would I choose? I've always wanted to be Isekai, and I love Isekai anime, so I'd probably just choose a good MMO. You know, I would choose WildStar, the MMO, because I fucking love WildStar. Either that or I would just fucking play a Dragon Age game. But I would like to live in old Dragon Age world. Like, I honestly wish that they would make a like Star Wars. What is it called? I think it's just Star Wars The Old Republic is the actual MMO for Star Wars. Right. I wish that they would make a Dragon Age MMO in the same vein. Because I love Dragon Age, and I think it would be fantastic.
God, it's so funny how, like, polar opposites we are in a lot of cases.
Why?
I hate MMOs, and I hate how they made that Star Wars one, because I just want KOTOR 3.
I mean, it's kind of like
shut your mouth. It's nothing like it.
You can bang aliens.
I don't want to do it with other people.
You don't want somebody chilling in the corner being like, yeah.
I'm not looking for an alien gangbang. Unless it's on my own accord.
That's literally exactly what I'm looking for. That's why I play that game, dude.
Well, you have a problem. Anyway, I'll go to mine. So I don't really know. Like, honestly, I said this, and then I was like, I don't know. But I think what I'd probably want is to play out like a Fallout series like this. I think a post-apocalyptic like not really survival part, because I hate survival games, but like going through and experiencing that world like in first person and getting to see that and try to talk your way out of things and connive your way through whatever, and being able to have that experience. It kind of reminds me of, as I'm talking about it, like Westworld in a way. Did you ever watch Westworld?
I've watched a bit of the first season, but I didn't get further than that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just the concept of having your own like playground of a Wild West area. Not as much to the Wild West part, but just that more of being in that interactive world where you can essentially do whatever you want, so to speak, or to choose your own adventure kind of a thing. So I would think it would be something like a Fallout series or some type of open world game like that, where there's more of you choose what you want to do in it. I think that would warrant itself for a very good VR type game, or, you know, I don't know, what would you call that? It's not really, I guess it's VR, right? But it's like a different type of VR.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. So it would be VR if you could just like, if when you moved, your body moved, similar to how in like Ready Player One, they have the haptic suits and everything. That is VR. What dive games would be is actually kind of like transferring your consciousness in a way. Like, yeah, you can't move.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm not as crazy about that part because that just seems scary because of what like usually happens in those animes anyway.
They get stuck.
There's a lot of people getting stuck in comas. I don't know about this.
Yeah, and then they come out, little stringy boys. Yeah. They're just like emaciated.
Yeah, I'm good. But yeah, I think a Fallout series game would be dope.
That would be really, really cool. Just saying, I would totally play some fucking dive games. I would play some DMMORPGs. I would love that shit. Even if I got stuck in them, I'd be like, I've been wishing for this for years, bitch. You just gave me what I wanted.
Yep, the ultimate escapism plan.
That's about the end of this podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked it, make sure you give us a nice rating on all sorts of different podcast services. Help us out with some iTunes reviews. We're on there. Yeah. I guess it really helps you with the algorithm. Make sure you check out some of the other podcasts within the HP Video Game Podcast Network. They're all really awesome. There's like 13 of them. You can actually now follow the HP Video Game Podcast Network on Twitter, so make sure to check that out. We'll tweet out a link for it at the end of this, or at least when this goes live. Yeah, they follow us, so you could just, follow us while you're at our profile, and then click on who's following us, find them. There you go, right?
There you go.
Yeah, pretty easy. If you guys would like to chat with us outside the show or send in your questions, you can follow us on Twitter at Legion, at IndiePod. You can follow me at Hyde Legion, and you can follow Josh at _George90. That's it for us today. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.